welcome back. I'm going to give you a little bit of an inside peek on some of the things that I wasn't able to share in my video. One of the things that was the hardest for me to really fit into the video was just the magnitude of this valley, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy about this story and about this part of St. Paul is the geologic history and how that legacy really is ancient, truly. And maybe you can get a feel for that in this image here. And I also got a really nice image, a historical painting sent to me after I made the video, which also shows what that valley really looked like to people 150 years ago.
The confluence with the Mississippi River was quite wide. Today, looking down from the bluff top shows the vast delta span and the river terrace where I filmed the movie.
I really just wanted to celebrate how interconnected all of these things are. There's a fantastic short report by the Blue Stem Group that really digs deeper into Trout Brook and its social history in St. Paul and the rails. And there's also a really fantastic video by the Capital Region Watershed District that talks about the infrastructure, the underground sewer tunnel that brings that water to the Mississippi River today.
This vignette examines the possible geologic origins of Trout Brook as seen through the lens of Minnesota's Quaternary geologic history. Over the course of the last 2 million years, the Quaternary epoch, glacial ice sheets slowly yet repeatedly advanced and retreated across Minnesota. These ice sheets were tremendously thick. And they left their signature marks on the ground, defining the landscape. As the most recent round of glacial ice melted and retreated, it produced large lakes and rivers, including the famous glacial Lake Agassiz. Lake Agassiz was aerially larger than all of the Great Lakes combined. Only about 9,000 years ago or so, Lake Agassiz catastrophically and torrentially drained southerly, leaving its mark indelibly on the landscape by carving the apparently overly wide valley in which the Minnesota River presently flows. Is it possible that Trout Brook shares a similar origin? Perhaps part of glacial Lake Anoka, a smaller, local Lake Agassiz just north of the Twin Cities. When we look at the map of the Quaternary deposits left by the glaciers, we find that the headwaters of Trout Brook, above McCarran's Lake, used to be a glacial lake body. Looking closely at today's Trout Brook, we see a small creek established in a valley that is wide relative to its drainage area. This geomorphology suggests that the glacial lake that used to exist above today's McCarran's Lake suddenly drained, eroding a valley all the way to the Mississippi River. While we may never know if this is the exact origin of Trout Brook, Quaternary geology clearly had an influence on Minnesota's rivers.
The knob of land splitting Trout Brook and Phelan Creek is known as Railroad Island. Heritage honored by public art. The western valley is shallow and wide until it meets the steep knob of Railroad Island. The depth of the valley is evident, with trains and stacked lines running through the former creek bed. Farther upstream, the valley widens, where just a few hundred years ago Trout Brook slowed into pools. Extremely long highway overpasses are required to span the distance of the valley.
One of the things that I thought was really cool, but I couldn't fit in the video, was that this is not only a restored waterway in the Trout Brook Nature Sanctuary. It's also a regional trail, and it starts way up at the headwaters by Lake McCarran's in Roseville, and comes all the way down through the park and into the regional trail system. And really putting these pieces of infrastructure together is so important. You have open space, you have mobility and connections, you have natural resources and water. And it's just a fantastic way to move forward into the next generation of infrastructure. As always, there's more than I can share in one video, but hopefully this gave you a little bit of a feel for the behind the scenes information and a little bit more of the flavor of the scale of this valley for Trout Brook and its twin Phelan Creek. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.